Hey everybody, welcome to CAF Warbird Tube, the show where we talk about World War II, aviation, history, and so much more. Warbird Tube is produced by the Commemorative Air Force, the world's largest flying museum. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and honor through flight and living history experiences. The CAF began the Warbird movement more than 65 years ago, and thanks to the support of individuals like you, we continue to grow strong. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and now our host, Steve Buss. Thanks for watching and keep 'em flying.
Good evening. Welcome to EAA Airventure Oshkosh 2023. Sorry we're a couple of minutes late, but everything here is kind of on a temporary basis. We finished the day air show a little after 6 o'clock and re-racked everything, got this set up for the webinar this evening. Night air show is coming up at 8 o'clock, and joining me right now, Hank Coates from CAF, president of CAF. You have been here a couple of days. Have you seen anything interesting so far?
Well, it's been an awesome week so far. On Monday I thought it was kind of light, but since Monday I think there's more people here than I've ever seen. The weather a little sketchy this morning, but it's really brightened up. It's been awesome the last few days, and I want to thank EAA and Warbirds of America for all their hospitality. It's been an awesome. Once again, it's been an awesome event, man.
Yeah, we're not even halfway through yet.
I know
That's the good part.
I know it.
Any cool warbirds that you've seen that stand out in your memory?
Air Corps has a P-47 down there that they've recently redone, and it is a work of art. Yep. It really is. Now, there's a Corsair down there that was recently in the movie Devotion. It looks pretty good, too.
That's right.
But, Air Corps does some great work, and that P-47 Thunderbolt is, it's beautiful.
And Jim Zazas is going to join us a little bit later on. He took some pictures of that airplane, so we'll be able to show you that
awesome.
if you're not here.
Yeah. That did appear in the movie Devotion. It's here.
CAF is here, Commemorative Air Force, part of the event. What kind of things do you have going on this week?
So we have as usual, we generally have a full schedule as we come here. Just some of the highlights. We have our Corsair here. Like as part of the gathering of Corsairs, and there's a whole bunch of them, 7 or 8 of them over there. There may be a 9th over in the center. So that's kind of a special event. We have, that I'm aware of, 15 CF aircraft, which is pretty typical. We've got 3 P-51s, Corsair, and just a bunch of B-25s. I know 2 of those and a bunch of others. Yep. So there's always a lot of airplanes. This year I have had more people come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm a member. I'm so happy." And there are hundreds and hundreds of members here, and we always love that. And we have over 300 registered for a CAF member event Friday night.
Yep.
We have David Hamilton's 101st birthday party tomorrow night. It will run you ragged if you let it, man. You'll start at 6 in the morning and end at 10 o'clock every day. It's fun, but it can get to you.
Yeah. You mentioned David Hamilton. He's one of the Pathfinder pilots on D-Day, last surviving Pathfinder pilot. Yep. He's been a friend of CAF for a number of years and a great gentleman. He's just a ball of energy. Celebrating his 101st birthday.
One of my fine friends, and at 101, he is amazing. He is in great shape. I'll tell a quick story. When we went to Normandy 4 years ago, we're going back again next year, and David's coming.
Good.
He told me he was coming one way or another. David flew across the channel, not in one of our aircraft. We couldn't allow that, but we had a friend that had a DC-3 that he could. And, for a 90-year-old guy, he comes flying out of that airplane, jumps out of the airplane, run up to me, hug me. Hank, I flew over the channel again. And, he is so full of energy and such a lot that he brightens any room he goes into. And he's a great friend.
Yes. Yeah. What are, outside of Airventure, obviously this is the aviation epicenter for this week. What are the other things that on the burners?
Well, we've been working with an organization called the Association of Professional Warbird Operators. We're here to work on agendas and items to increase the safety, the standardization of maintenance birds. We also work on trying to work with legislative and other issues that affect the entire community. And we're trying to bring everybody together to participate in that. We've had some interesting things that have come up on the legislative and senatorial calendars in the last few weeks. I think we've had a few successes in that. I don't want to go too much into detail. We have met with numerous FAA and NTSB officials this week on issues that are related to the CAF, Warbirds, and aviation in general.
Yeah.
So, it's not just about coming here and flying airplanes and having fun. That's always an important part of it. Behind the scenes, though, for us to be able to continue to do that, there's a lot of work that goes on.
It's certain. I'm assuming that there's great cooperation between EAA, CAF, AOPA, all the alphabet organizations to try and make sure that whatever legislation comes out is as positive as it can be.
Absolutely. What's interesting is one person from one organization. So Sean with EAA, we work hand in hand. About something, he'll call me and we'll work together on it. I'll find out. Me work on it. Pete Bunce from Gamma, the same thing. Mark Baker from AOPA. We all are looking out for each other and going, hey, you need to watch out, and we need to watch together. And there's a lot of members of a lot of teams, and everybody has their own kind of niche thing that they're able to do and work within industry, within the legal or regulatory things. We have some really, really good relationships built over the years with the FAA, AFS 800 pieces there, as well as the NTSB. The new chair, we met with her this morning. I know that Larry Kelly met with the interim FAA administrator. Had a great. So there's a lot of, like I say, there's a lot of things for us to continue to be able to do what we love to do. There's a lot of homework that has to be done.
How about membership itself? To grow as well.
Yeah, membership is awesome. We have over 20,000 members and supporters now. We started up last year. We had two to be number one, Neil Zagather and Greg Heiser. So one is number one.
Okay.
But that's kind of a unique those. Life memberships over the last year has really picked up, and memberships in general. Beginning of this year, I need to clarify this, but I'm more members at the beginning of this year than we've ever had.
Excellent. Yeah. Great news. And, of course, units continue to grow and thrive.
Came up with a new unit initiative where we go to an area, kind of like Walmart and some of the other guys do. They go, there's not a store there, so we need to put a store there. Yeah. And we solicit for leadership and do you want members? And then we say, listen, we will have an airplane ready for you if you meet these criteria, rather than start a unit and then later you'll get something.
Right.
And so we've started, I think, 7 of those in the last 2 years, all with PT or BT aircraft, and I think 1 air coupe. And it's been hugely productive. We have one young man was 16 and 17 years old when he started a unit in Connecticut.
Wow.
And he's going to school now. He couldn't be the president. He could only be the vice president by law, by regulation. Yep. But he is the president now, and he's going to Embry-Riddle. So that's the kind of thing that's going on. We have a lot of, at the Aviation Education Center, there's a lot of activities just for aerospace and other things. Units have very robust cadet programs, so there's a lot of fun things going on.
Excellent. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap up and let you get your seat for the air show?
No, it's going to be. I think the clouds are clearing up. It's going to be nice and pleasant, and I hope a great, safe night. Forward to it.
Sounds good. And Coach with CAF.
What am I going to?
Come by and you're in.
Warbird area. It's over behind Warbird. It's over behind the Warbird Cafe.
All right.
And thank you for hosting and taking care of me, man.
Yeah, again next year. Sound good?
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks. We'll be back in just a moment with EAA's Dick Napinski, right here on CAF Warbird Tube.
These people get into the training camp
we're back. Joining me now, Dick Hitzke from EAA's Communications Department. What you have an official title though, don't you?
Yeah, PR lump.
I love it. I love it. Dick has been with EAA for and in the communications role this year. A lot of folks are already here. Crowd is full of. As far as preliminary numbers, I understand that it's going to be a while before you count all that. It's looking pretty good here.
It is. I've tried to count them so far, but they keep moving, and it's kind of difficult. But very, very strong all the way around. We've expanded that 4 times already.
Really?
Yeah, we're on the other side of Ripple right now, in Ripple Road, and so we moved into the red parking lot first, and then a bit, and then we're into the area now parking cars where we've got some auxiliary land to the south. So it is, but with all that, you get to put all the logistics in there too.
Right.
You run the porta potties, the dumpsters, everything else that go down there. Yep. And it becomes, Taylor, his crew credit with our facilities. My goodness. The guy can make changes on the fly better than anybody I've ever seen and make it look like it's easy.
What about the aircraft numbers? We had some folks sneaking out this morning.
Yeah, before the storm came through, that storm front came through, and you saw from about 6 to 6:45, they were lined up and looked like the last boat out of Dodge there, to mix my metaphors. And so they got out, but very strong. Ultralight has been vintage. I know after day 1 had more than 1,300 parked in there. Warbirds, home built's very strong, probably going to end there again. And just generally parking and camping. Monday night I went down to row 176. For those who are unfamiliar with row 176, on the back end there's a chain link fence, which means the end of the area.
Yes.
And County Highway N right behind it. So it is, it's not quite full. We made 30 more acres available this year, 34 more acres, and can park about 200 to 300 more airplanes down there. And it's part of the eventual growth pattern. Jack Pelton has said many times that he wants to make sure that every airplane that wants to land at Oshkosh, or I should say the pilot who wants to land at Oshkosh, airplanes have a mind of their own sometimes, that are able to land at Oshkosh and not.
Excellent. That is just great news. And so far, the weather outside of this morning being a little damp. If you're not familiar with the weather in Wisconsin over the last 2 months, we've had no rain whatsoever.
Right.
Even though it was a kind of torrential downpour for a few minutes, there's all this rain came down, and it's like,
oh, no, there's not much out there, And I was doing a radio interview this morning, and I said, wow, what about the rain? I said, well, it's midweek. We need to wash the airplanes.
That's
really?
Right. There you go.
No, not really. That's it. The rain just came. And so, it is. It's Wisconsin. It's summer. I told people last year we would never get 7 days in a row like that ever again, because we had Chamber of Commerce weather all the way through, Steve.
Yep.
And so, the way this day turned out, it is tremendous.
Yes.
You look at this, it's going to be a great night air show tonight, and, every get things started.
Excellent. What are some of the other things that you'd like to highlight that are either happening here at AirVenture or things that EAA is working on the rest of the year?
Well, I just love the Super Cup. It hasn't been here for 23 years. And what's amazing, you see kids on Boeing Plaza go, wow. It's like a refrigerator door opening. You're waiting for the 60-watt bulb to turn on all of a sudden. But it is. It's great to see that back here. NASA's back. I may even call that a tent, what Boeing has on Boeing Plaza. That is not a tent. It is a They're here in a big way, and with their friends at WIS, flew for the first time yet.
It'll fly tonight in the night air show.
Yep, exactly. And so it's looking at all those things, and really you mentioned it going in operation. The emphasis on youth education, getting youth involved in aviation. With the Youth Welcome Center this year, you can hold your kids. Well, here are the activities on the grounds that you can go take care of. This year broke ground for a new youth building. And then the Aero Educate Center, which has been really steaming along well this year with the opportunities there. So just all of those things going along with the new education center that opened up a year ago, which is a beautiful facility. If people have not seen that on the front of the museum, it is something special, and it has been well used by
Good.
school groups and pilot groups and everything else. Exactly. So you're going to see that big emphasis coming up this year.
Okay.
And membership-wise, we are at over 270,000 members,
It's amazing.
all-time high. And it's just people feel a certain attraction. And I think what you try to do is take this essence. And you've been on these grounds long enough to know there's an essence here. That how do you capture that throughout the year and push that into the local chapters and push that into the other events and your online offerings and so forth to make that special and get that feeling all the way around. And we work very hard with our chapters to say, be welcoming.
Yes.
Have those folks. You can't have the same 12 guys sitting around drinking coffee, wondering where's the 5900 low lead. It's you've got to reach out to people and say, hi, welcome. Why are you interested? How do you get engaged in aviation and things like that? And so if we do that, then we'll be doing the right thing and become a welcoming organization, even more so than we are.
Excellent. Well, I know you are short on time because you have a late-minute media arrival.
Yeah,
who's coming in late tonight and wants to be a part of the show.
Wants to be part of the show, so we'll let him stand out there and we'll show him a screen and say, okay, be part of the show. No, it's one of those things. We have more than 1,000 media credential requests, and probably about 800 of them will actually show up. So we have media from around the world here. Great to see them once again. And we had quite a few last year, but this year, they came back en masse.
Yes.
And so to see all of them and see some of the places where our story gets up. And we talk about our story, not just EAA, but the story of aviation.
Yes.
And that's what we're telling here. When you have people from CNN and the Wall Street Journal and those type of people here, giving an opportunity to tell the story to a national audience and say, here's where you can find it.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. And that's why it's so special and it's so cool to have everybody here every year.
That's right. Dick Napinski from EAA's Communications Department. Dick, appreciate you stopping by and bringing us a little update midweek on the show. And so we'll do this again next year.
It sounds good. I'm proud to say several people have showed up this year.
Definitely. You're watching CAF Warbird Tube. This is great. This is live TV, Jim.
I love it.
You have no idea what's happening. And I have no idea how this looks at home either. I'm sure people are wondering, why aren't they saying anything?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But Jim Zaz is joining us here. He's CAF member. He's also very involved in the Warbirds of America. And Jim's a great photographer, and you're sharing some pictures with us that you've taken. And Hank Coates mentioned the P-51C Thunderbird, and this is an amazing airplane that we saw here. I can't remember seeing, except archival pictures from the 60s, P-51 Mustang not in military colors. And this is back in the 1949 air racing colors.
Right.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that airplane.
It has a remarkable history.
Yeah.
And, this aircraft was owned by Jimmy Stewart. And Joe DeBona was the pilot, and went on to race and won the 1949 Bendix.
Yep.
And, Jimmy could claim, okay, my airplane won. But then shortly after, he sold the aircraft to Jackie Cochran.
Yep.
And she went on to set several speed records with it. And she owned the airplane for several years and then sold it back to Jimmy.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So it came back. But the aircraft holds 5 records.
Yeah.
And just a remarkable history.
And I love the paint scheme that's on it. Warren Peach is the owner.
Yes.
And he and his team did a miraculous restoration. But just looking at the Pegasus, the red Pegasus horse, the blue and the gold, and when you get up close to the airplane, I think you've got a slide here that you can kind of see. So Warren's just about to touch his own paint scheme.
Well, the paint is the depth, so to speak, that the reflection is so good, and the paint was still flowing. It had just come out of the paint shop 4 days earlier, so you could walk around the airplane, and you could get a whiff of the paint. It was that fresh.
And it's just originally, and yeah, you can see this in 19 when they made it a racer in the 40s. I was reading it had 48 coats of paint on it,
Yes.
and then highly polished. And rumor had it that they gained 8 miles an hour by having all that slick paint
That's right.
on that airplane.
That's right.
It's just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it is a very, very beautiful airplane. Very striking.
Yeah. And of course, we have a few other ones here. We'll go the other way with bucket of bolts. And I love that airplane. It's just big and leaks oil, and it's kind of nice to look at.
Well, there are two C-45s
Yeah.
that are here on the field that are CAF birds, and we've got bucket of bolts,
Yep.
and then we got big oily beast. So,
That's that one.
And that's that one. So,
And if you wonder where it got its name, it's, they're underneath cleaning it.
so
Yeah.
tremendous enthusiasm,
Yep.
with the individuals, the crew, and pilot the airplanes. Just absolutely tremendous enthusiasm. They
Yeah.
love taking it out. They love giving rides in the aircraft and have great fun.
Yes. And of course, Miss Mitchell is here from the Minnesota wing.
Yes.
She's looking good as always with the new fresh engine, so she's
Yes.
back flying. And of course, AirVenture favorite and an air show favorite, I think everywhere.
Yes.
I don't think you can go to an air show anywhere in the United States without seeing someone having a Devil Dog T-shirt on. It's just amazing.
Yep.
A couple of years ago, my wife and I we live here in Oshkosh. We had a rummage sale, right? A neighborhood rummage sale, and a young lady came up. She was wearing a Devil Dog T-shirt. She was a fan. I was like, wow, they are everywhere. And then this P-47 restoration.
Oh, this is incredible. This is Bonnie.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how the aircraft looked over in the Pacific Theater when it was recovered for restoration. And over the last 8 years, a private concern in Bemidji, Minnesota named Air Corps restored the aircraft, the Dakota Territory Air Museum. And it is just a most remarkable restoration.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of these restorations, much like Thunderbird, you tell individuals you have to see it up close to appreciate it.
Right, and that's why we're showing you the pictures, so you can see it up
Yes.
close, because it is just a magnificent restoration. And do you know, will we be seeing the?
We hope it will fly.
Okay.
You know, it would be great,
but
right now, because the public
attention,
they like to keep
it on the ground.
we may be surprised. You know, the maybe flying the show at some point.
Okay.
And this, all these aircraft that we're looking at right now are located in the Warbird area. Yes,
correct?
yes.
Now, is Thunderbird still there, or is it in the vintage area?
I believe that Thunderbird has been moved to the vintage area, but they move it back and forth. You know, it started vintage, came down there to Boeing Plaza, went to Warbirds, then back up to vintage. It's moving in different spots, which makes it nice because you have many more people are able to see the aircraft.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just looking at the restoration Bonnie, P-47. What model number is that?
That is a P-47N.
N number. Okay. Yeah, just wonderful, and again, always maintenance.
Always maintenance.
We've got plenty of trainers on the ground as well, and I think you've got a shot of a BT. This is a famous airplane in its own right.
This is a Women Air Force Service pilot aircraft, an actual Women Air Force Service aircraft that was restored in Minnesota.
Right.
And then it was donated to the WASP Museum in Sweetwater, Texas.
Okay. And it's here up in the Warbird area
It's
as
here
well.
in the Warbird area.
All right. Those are your pictures that you have so far. You're going to go take some more?
I'll take some more for you.
Excellent.
I'd be honored.
Excellent. Jim, how many years have you been coming to the show?
This is my 45th year.
All right. So you've seen things change, especially in the Warbird world, and vintage home builds and things continue to evolve. But I'm always struck by the way the restorations continue to get better and better and
Oh,
better.
yes.
10 years ago, I was like, wow, this Mustang is gorgeous. You can't get it any prettier than that. And then something like Thunderbird shows up, and you're like, oh, yes, you can.
Yeah, the level, you're exactly correct. The level restoration, the attention to detail just climbs higher and higher each year. I never know how they're going to be able to surpass it the following
right.
year, but they do.
Yes. Jim, thank you much for joining us. Jim Zazas, who's a CAF member, also involved with the EAA Warbirds of America, a Warbird pilot himself. He's got a Luscombe and a few other things in the hangar as well that he gets to fly from time to time. So, Jim, again, thank you very much for being here, and hope you enjoy the show.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Steve.
And we're back. Thank you for joining us once again here on CAF Warbird Tube. Joining me right now is Steve Bridgewater, Deputy Editor of Aerospace Magazine. And I said that you were a aviation writer and photographer and aviation enthusiast. You've been a guest on Warbird Tube before, and we appreciate you coming back. And I can't believe it. You flew all the way from England just to be on the show.
Absolutely. I would never miss it, Steve. You know that.
I know. So, how have you been since last time we talked? I mean, last year, a couple of years with COVID, and things are kind of a little dicey, but better this year?
Yeah, last year was my first year back at Oshkosh.
Right.
This is my 20th anniversary year. First year I came out was 2003.
Oh, congratulations.
I think the show's got a real buzz this year. I think
does.
last year people were still a little bit trepidatious about COVID and traveling. It's just so many international people I've seen this year, and it's just got that real buzz.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to Friday, the International Visitors Parade that always ends up here at the announcer stand.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to see all the flags from all around the world and all the people just being here, knowing that this is the center of aviation for 1 week, and it's just amazing.
I think that's what aviation does. I'm lucky I get to go to a lot of events, lots of air shows
Right.
around the world, and we recently had the Flying Legends Air Show in the UK, which is the first time it's happened since pre-COVID. I pulled up in the car parking lot, and the car next to me, guy got out. He was from Sweden.
Yes.
Never met him before. Really nice guy. Spent the entire weekend with him. We stayed in the same hotel, so we had dinner together. And all week here at EAA, he's been messaging me on Facebook saying, "Oh, has the Connie turned up? How many Corsairs are there?" You've got that instant gelling of people. As soon as you have Warbirds in common,
Exactly.
you've got like-minded people.
Yes. Now, to let folks know, the Constellation is not here
Not
yet.
yet.
Not yet. They're working on it. Had a little mechanical issue. So they're working on that. And Corsairs, we have 9 on the field. 8 will be flying tomorrow in the air show.
Incredible.
The one that is on static display is the EAA's Corsair, which actually has a history back to VF-32, the squadron that Ensign Jesse Brown and Tom Hudner were a part of. Now, Jesse Brown did not fly EAA's Corsair, but it was a replacement after the incident where Tom was awarded the Medal of Honor. So Tom Hudner has flown that airplane, and other members of VF-32 have flown that airplane in combat in Korea. And until just recently, they didn't even know that.
And that's these stories are out there, and it's the likes of the CAF and their members that keep digging, and EAA as well, dig and find this information. That it's so important to aviation that we keep these stories going.
Yes. Also important to you, dogs and airplanes. I saw you post that, and I said, you know what, that's me as well. I'm distracted by airplanes and dogs.
Anyone who follows me on social media said knows most of the photographs are dogs. I've got 2 dogs, 2 small miniature poodles, both named after pilots. You know that, Steve?
Yes.
Howie Keefe.
Yep.
I've got Howie, who's named after Howie Keefe, because Miss America, and I've got Franklin, named after the very famous Jimmy Franklin.
Of course.
They are airshow dogs.
Well, you mentioned the Flying Legends, and we've got some pictures from that show. And looking at the pictures, there were a lot of airplanes there.
There were a lot of aeroplanes, and there was a lot of horrendous weather. It was, I think we had all 4 seasons in a day, including hail, thunder, lightning, torrential rain. But aeroplanes from all over Europe.
Wow.
We've got you see on the picture there, the B-25. That's Red Bull's B-25. That came from Salzburg in Austria. There was a Spitfire across from France. Unfortunately, the weather stopped some of the European contingent getting across. But
What is this?
that is a very, very early P-40. So P-40B, pre-war markings. That's getting airborne there, just ready for the Balbo, because Flying Legends, you have lots of individual set pieces of aeroplanes. Right. So we had 4 P-40s together. We had a P-40B, a P-40F with the Merlin engine, a Curtiss Hawk 75, which was the very early. So the P-36, there was a P-36 as well, but the Hawk 75 was one that was given to the French. So it was in French Air Force markings. So
amazing.
And then at the end of the day, they all go up, and you get this big Balbo of aeroplanes. So.
And that was a term that I had not heard before, a Balbo, which is you basically, in our terms, it's sort of like the Warbird show, except you launch everything.
You launch everything. You don't get the early Spitfires and the Hurricanes. They're too slow just to maintain speed. So it's generally led by the Bearcat.
Right.
And the term Balbo comes from the 1930s. There was an Italian admiral who had a fleet of flying boats that he flew from Italy across to the US. And he was Admiral Balbo.
Okay.
And so the term comes from a big formation is generally known as a Balbo.
Wow.
So I think we had about 28 aeroplanes up this year. The record we've ever had at Flying Legends was 39. So you've got everything from Bearcats, Corsairs, P-51s, Yaks, P-40s, and then at the back end you've got the P-38 Lightning from Red Bull, the B-25. Yep. What a noise! What an incredible sound as this. Yeah, they launch in stream and then form up.
Yes.
It's just one of those very special things.
What are some of the differences between the way air shows are conducted here in the States versus overseas?
I think over here in the US, you've got some incredible aeroplanes. Sure. I mean, things that we could only dream of seeing in Europe. The SBD, the CAF's SBD. Right. I always make a beeline for the SBD. And the Helldiver.
Right.
Whereas in the UK, I think we have less variety. I think at Flying Legends this year we had 14 Spitfires, which was a bit disappointing, really. Only 14
only
Spitfires.
14. We would be happy with one.
I know, exactly. So, yeah, it swings and roundabouts. What we tend to do with the air shows in the UK is the aeroplanes tend to fly more acro routines. So a US show, you'll tend to get aeroplanes flying a racetrack platform, whereas at Flying Legends or some of the Duxford shows, you'll see aircraft maybe come in as a 4-ship and then split into either 2s or singletons to actually perform acro. Obviously with really highly skilled guys at the helm.
Yeah. And
there's the Balbo. That's the Balbo coming through. So what have we got there? Bearcat and 2 Corsairs leading, some P-40s, there's some Hispano-Bouchons, the Spanish license-built Messerschmitt 109. You just imagine the sound, all those Merlins and Pratt Whitneys and Wright Cyclones going overhead. It's just, I guess it's the nearest we'll get in our lifetimes to hear those 1,000-bomber raids launching.
Exactly, yes.
And Flying Legends moved this year. It went to Royal Air Force Church Fenton, the former RAF Church Fenton, which is up in Yorkshire. Which was a Royal Air Force base during World War II, but it was the home of the Eagle Squadron. So 71 Squadron, the Americans that came across before America officially entered the war and flew with the Royal Air Force. So really apt that that Flying Legends chose to relocate there.
Amazing. That's something we don't see around here very much either.
No. Whenever the Battle of Britain Memorial flights fly at an air show in the UK, you can hear a pin drop.
Sure.
It really is such a magical experience, and they don't just fly at air shows. These aeroplanes during the summer season will fly at country fetes. They'll fly at memorials, gatherings. Particularly on big anniversaries. Like this year is the anniversary of the Dam Busters mission.
Yes.
So on the night of May the 16th, the Lancaster was airborne. It flew over the Royal Air Force Museum in London, and then went back across East Anglia, across at Bomber County, across Lincolnshire, over so many of the airfields that the crews took off from and never returned. And it is such a poignant memorial to all those people. It's a very, very moving thing.
Yeah, indeed. And again, something we don't see here in the States often.
Hispano-Bouchons, yes. So, I know EAA last year we had a genuine Messerschmitt 109 with a Daimler-Benz in the front, wonderful aeroplane, very temperamental engine. You wouldn't want to take that aeroplane very far. Here you've got a 109 with a Merlin engine on the front. So these are, from the firewall back, it's still a 109. In fact, some of the very early ones were delivered from Germany to Spain as Messerschmitt 109s, but they were never delivered with engines.
Oh, okay.
So the ingenuity came in, and they've got some Merlins lying around. So you combine a proven engine with a proven airframe, and you have the Hispano-Bouchon. It's still a very tricky aeroplane to fly.
Oh, sure.
But now there's a 2-seater flying in it. One of the old Connie Edwards aeroplanes.
Oh, yes.
So obviously, I'm sure a lot of your listeners know that Connie had a lot of these Bouchons in the barn, and they were retrieved a few years ago and restored in the UK, and 5 have now returned to the air, including a 2-seater. And if you come to the UK, you can fly in that 2-seater.
And if you are a fan of CAF Warbird Tube, Brad Pilgrim, who's our resident historian, he was just there not too long ago and had a flight in that very airplane, and we're going to have him on Warbird Tube in a few weeks so he can recount us with what that was like.
Brad posted that fantastic photograph of him stood in front of the aeroplane in Connie's barn when he was aged about 10 years old, and recreated the photograph now, and that isn't that just incredible? There's another Bouchon there. That's John Romain's aeroplane from the Aircraft Restoration Company at Duxford, flown in all sorts of films, including the original Battle of Britain, but also in Dunkirk. And lots of mini-series and things like that. So if you've seen a Messerschmitt 109 in a movie, chances are it was probably a Bouchon.
Yes.
And do you know what Bouchon means, Steve?
What is that?
It means deep-breasted pigeon in Spanish. So if you look at that Bouchon and you look at that cowling, it's a deep-breasted pigeon. That is the Spanish translation of Bouchon out of Spanish into English.
Absolutely amazing.
So there's Curtiss P-36.
Yep.
So in Royal Air Force service, we called that the Mohawk.
Okay.
But again, if you just look back maybe 10, 15 years ago, did we think we'd see aeroplanes like this
No.
in the air? And it's, it's the likes of the big collectors. In the UK, we've got Stephen Gray.
Yep.
You've got your Rod Lewises, the big collections like CAF and Ericsson that are putting the money into keeping these aeroplanes flying, but also always restoring new types. Look here this weekend.
I know.
Yeah, this week, we've got Dakota Territories, we've got Thunderbird, the P-51,
Yep.
we've got Bonnie, the P-47. And I know you guys are restoring a P-47 at the CAF as well, aren't you, down in
Exactly.
Georgia?
Air Base Georgia has got the P-47N model, and they are working on that very, very diligently, and hope to have that back in the air in the next couple of years.
And and if it wasn't for organisations like the CAF, we'd be a lot poorer. So kudos to every one of the members that enables this to happen.
Yes. And there's a shot. It's P-38 and the B-25.
Well, that's Lefty's old P-38.
Oh, okay.
So remember White Lightning? That's now owned by the Red Bull Corporation, the soft drink, the energy drink.
Yep.
And so that's based in Salzburg in Austria at Red Bull HQ, along with the B-25. Very highly polished. Yeah, perhaps not to everybody's taste, but it's still flying.
It's still
and at least
flying.
it hasn't got a huge Red Bull logo on it. It is tasteful.
And it sounds marvelous, I'm sure.
It is whisper quiet.
Yeah.
And moving to Church Fenton was very interesting because we're familiar with Flying Legends taking place at Duxford. Duxford's got quite a lot of airspace over the top. So Church Fenton was unlimited.
Oh, okay.
So you see the P-38, and it was Eskil, Norwegian F-35 pilot, flying the P-38.
Wow.
So gone from one Lightning to the other. And it ran in for its first pass, and he pulled to the vertical, and it just kept going. And you're not used to seeing an aeroplane of that vintage really being not thrown around because it was very sedate, but the performance was really evident. You could see that it just did not run out of energy as it climbed.
Amazing.
So, we're very, very lucky. But Sydney Cotton's Lockheed 12. If ever there was a historic aeroplane, that aeroplane was owned by Sydney Cotton, an Australian based in the UK. He bought that aeroplane in 1938 and had it modified with camera hatches. So although that looks like a very civilian aeroplane, that in the 1938-39 period would routinely fly over Europe, including into Germany. Perhaps, shall we say, looking at the infrastructure that was there.
Sure.
And there's a very famous instance where he took a German general in the right-hand seat. And while the German general was there, they were flying over the Siegfried line and just surreptitiously pressing the button to take the photographs at the bottom of the aeroplane while the German general was sat next to him. And Sydney Cotton went on to design what you may know as the Sidcot flying suit. So the heated flying suit. Same guy.
Wow.
So that aeroplane, I think, it might not perhaps be the most dramatic of aeroplanes, but when it comes to historical importance,
it has the story.
Yeah, and recently returned to the air in the UK after a restoration. So owned by Graham Peacock, who's got a big collection of Warbirds.
Amazing. So, Stephen, thank you for sharing some of those pictures. I know you have even more that we've seen, but it kind of give folks just a taste of what a European air show looks like compared to what we see here at AirVenture or Sun and Fun or any of the other big shows that happen throughout the year. So again, thank you for being here. Enjoy the show.
Absolute pleasure. And as I say every time, England's not very far away. Come see us. We will make you very welcome.
There you go. It's just across the pond, right?
Absolutely.
Stephen Bridgewater with us, and that's going to wrap things up for our Live from Oshkosh from the announcer stand, because in just a couple of minutes I've got to go to work, and we have a night air show that's going to happen now. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube right now, as soon as we sign off, put some good comments on there if you liked what we did, and then go to EAA.org/airventure/live. And for the first time, EAA is going to be streaming the night air show. So even if you can't be here, you can see what's going on in the grounds. And really, if you're planning on coming, please come on in. There's plenty of room. And if you haven't been here before, got to put it on your bucket list. All right. I'm Steve Buss. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week right here on Warbird Tube.